ขอต้อนรับทุกท่านเข้าสู่การฝึกอบรมหลักสูตรการประเมินองค์การนะคะ Organizational Assessment นะคะในวันนี้อาจารย์ทุกท่านได้รับเอกสารซึ่งเป็นไกด์ไลน์1 เล่มนะคะแล้วก็ PowerPoint ค่ะสำหรับกำหนดการคร่าวๆวันนี้นะคะเราจะเริ่มต้นในเวลา 8:30 น.ถึง 9:00 น.นะคะเราจะเริ่มต้นในการ Opening Including Introduction นะคะหลังจากนั้น 9:00 น.ถึง 9:30 น.จะเป็น Overview of the course นะคะในเวลา 9:30 น.ถึง 10:30 น.นะคะจะเป็นการบรรยายในหัวข้อของ The Concept of Performance Excellence Building an Integrated Management System นะคะแล้วก็พักรับประทานอาหารว่าง 15 นาทีค่ะหลังจากนั้นเราจะเข้ามาพบกันใหม่ในเวลา 10:45 น.ถึง 12:00 น.จะเป็นการบรรยายเรื่องของ Core Value of Performance Excellence นะคะ Workshop 1 ค่ะแล้วก็รับประทานอาหารกลางวันในเวลาเที่ยงถึงบ่ายโมงนะคะค่ะในช่วงบ่ายนะคะเราจะเริ่มเวลา 13:00 น.ถึง 15:00 น.จะเป็นการบรรยายหัวข้อ Organizational Profile Workshop 2 นะคะแล้วก็พักรับประทานอาหารว่างนะคะในเวลา 15:15 น.จนถึงเวลา 17:00 น.นะคะจะเป็นหัวข้อของเรื่องของ Criteria for Leadership Workshop 3 นะคะแล้วก็ Reflection ใน Workshop ที่ 1, 2 แล้วก็ Recap of the Day ของวันนี้นะคะค่ะทีนี้ในวันนี้นะคะได้รับเกียรติจากดร. คาริงโกหลุยส์ คาริงโกนะคะมาเป็นผู้บรรยายให้เราฟังนะคะขอแนะนำท่านเป็นภาษาอังกฤษนะคะ Now it's time to begin the special presentation. Let me briefly introduce our guest speaker, Professor Dr. Luís Calingo. He got his master's degree in strategic planning and policy and doctoral degree in business administration from the University of Pittsburgh, USA. He worked as Executive Vice President and Chief Academic Officer. He has almost 20 years of senior administrative experience in higher education. Distinctive administrative competency is strategic planning, external relations, and fundraising, development of interdisciplinary academic programs, and creation of institution winglets. And then he is going to be a president of Woodbury at the beginning of July. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to invite Professor Dr. Luís Calingo to give the presentation on organizational assessment. Professor Dr. Luís Calingo, please.
Good morning. It's a pleasure for me to return to Bangkok again, and this time to be the guest of the Office of Higher Education Commission to facilitate the Education Performance Excellence self-assessment course for the next 3 days. This is the first time I was in Thailand was in 1978, quite a long time ago. I was at the AIT at that time in Rangsit, attending a conference for about a week, and then I returned to Thailand. The next time I returned was in 1994, and that was to be a speaker at the conference. I forgot now which hotel along the river. That was in 1994, and then since 2002, I have returned to Bangkok every year to be one of the principal consultants on the development and the implementation of the Thailand Quality Award. So I've spoken to educational institutions as well in terms of the implementation of the Baldrige Award framework for performance excellence to a higher education setting. So I'm very pleased to note that my first involvement on the Thailand Quality Award was actually 2002, and that is 10 years ago. And at that time, my task was for the engagement that I was asked to participate in, was to introduce the Baldrige Award criteria for performance excellence in education to a group of medical schools at that time. And it was under the auspices of the Ministry of University Affairs, of the Bureau of Educational Standards, And I think the pilot program, the fast-track program that you have right now, that you're undergoing, is actually the culmination of that particular effort that started about 10 years ago. So I'm very pleased that this has finally come to fruition, the implementation of this framework. Now, it normally takes about 3 years for someone who has learned about the Baldrige or the PQA framework for the first time to actually internalize the criteria. And by internalize, I mean you do your assess other organizations. In about 3 years, it's about the time that you feel comfortable enough with the criteria, that you can now apply the criteria for performance excellence in your own organization. And we call this a fast-track program because you don't have 3 years. So we're going to shorten that lead time to get this competence, to build this competence from 3 years to, I think, about 1.5 years. So that's why we call it a fast-track program. And I think you should consider yourselves, your institutions, to be very fortunate to be among the first institutions in Thailand to actually have been invited to participate in this pilot program. Now, of course, being a pilot program, you know what a pilot means. There's a lot of holes, there's still a lot of things, rough spots that we need to clarify. So we are, in a sense, we are building a bridge at the same time that we're crossing the bridge. Okay, so this requires being part of a pilot group, means that we need to have a lot of patience, that it's not yet a perfected framework. So we are part of the development of the framework as we are actually implementing it. Now, these are the participating universities today, the next 3 days. So the representatives from Chiang Mai University, could you raise your hand? So just so that we all know where you are. Okay. I was in Chiang Mai in 2007 as a Fulbright specialist, and I gave a lecture on the Baldrige, the PQA framework in education at that time. Konkan University, okay, so please, okay, so there they are. Mahidol University. I've given the lectures on the PQA framework to Mahidol maybe 2 times or 3 times already. So I expect you to actually know a lot more. Okay. Suwandusit Rajabat University. Did I pronounce it correctly? Okay, so welcome. And Ubon Ratchathani University, Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences. Are you by yourself? They're coming. Okay, so. And University of the Thai Chamber of Commerce. Okay, so. And I was at your university in 2007 also. Okay, so welcome. I hope those of you who are alone, that your colleagues will be joining you soon, because we will be doing a lot of workshops. This is not about a lecture. This course is not going to be a lot of lectures. I was assured that all the lectures about the criteria you've been exposed to, so this is more like an opportunity for you to apply what you've learned. Yes?
Perhaps you forgot the second one at the university.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I arranged this, by the way, in alphabetical order. Okay, so Hat Yai University, okay, so you have come a long way, so a special welcome for you. Okay. Okay. So, first things first, very important principle in education, especially when you're working in groups. None of us is as smart as all of us. Okay? Okay? None of us is as smart as all of us. Or another way of saying that is, all of us is smart than one of us. Okay? Okay. So, in order to ensure that this principle is followed, that this is going to be the core value of this class, okay? None of us is as smart as all of us. In order to ensure that this principle is followed, we need to live by certain group operating norms or operating principles, okay? So, I'm proposing 7. Why 7? Because I was told that there will be 7 representatives, 7 participants from every school. Okay, So the first operating principle, please turn off your mobile phones, your electronic gadgetry, your iPads, unless if you are taking notes, okay? But don't surf the internet. We will start and finish on time, okay? I realize that the traffic in the morning is a little problematic, so I know we're starting a little late today, but let us make our objective to start and finish on time. Okay. Now, the third principle is very important. We are accountable to each other for each one of us to succeed. So we should help each other to get the job done. Okay, so your colleague's success is your own success as well. So we're accountable for each other's success. Fourth principle is to listen actively and respectfully, be open to other people's ideas, and be willing to compromise. Okay? Number 5, take time to build consensus within the group. Okay? Consensus means does not have to be 100% agreement of everyone, but we need to make sure that everyone has had an input in the decision that we collectively make. Number 6, it is healthy to disagree as long as different ideas are valued and respected. Okay? And number 7, enjoy the time, have fun, and be happy. Okay, so these are the same operating principles that we follow in all of our TQA assessor trainings that we have every year. So we do this consistently every year. And in order to make sure that these operating principles are actually implemented, each one of you in your table will have an assignment. You will be a watch person for one of those operating principles. So your job is to make sure that so you will own 1 or 2 operating principles. If there are 7 in your group, then each one of you will be responsible for 1 operating principle. And if there are less than 7 in your group, so one of you may have more than one. Will have more than 1 operating principle. And we'll take this seriously. So the job description of the watch person is to be particularly vigilant to see that the principle has been implemented. Second is to remind the group that the principle is being violated when it is violated. Third is to assess how the group is doing in implementing the established principle. And fourth is to propose and arrange for corrective actions or intervention when the group seems to be experiencing difficulty. So, let's take the next 2 minutes for you to assign these roles, these principles to each of you. This is the simplest decision that you will make in the next 3 days. Okay, so, okay. Okay, are you finished? Everyone has an assignment already? Okay. Okay, don't forget what your assignment is. So, because we will evaluate our day using these 7 principles at the end of each day. Okay, let's go. What are we going to accomplish by Thursday 5 o'clock? Okay. So these are the things that we will accomplish by Thursday 5 o'clock. First of all, is a self-assessment of your organization. Now, your organization, I mean, it's either your university or if you're doing the TQA assessment for the entire university. I think Maidon University is doing it that way. Or your faculty, your particular college or faculty, if you're doing the assessment for your own faculty. And in terms of the self-assessment, there are 2 things that we will accomplish. First is, the 11 core values of performance excellence, from visionary leadership all the way to systems perspective. So we will pick three of those 11 core values. Each of your tables, your organizations will pick three of those and apply and demonstrate how that core value is being applied in your organization. Then, the bulk of the 3 days we will spend on evaluating your organization on the first 4 categories of the TQA criteria. And those first 4 categories are leadership, strategic planning, customer focus, and measurement, analysis, and knowledge management. Okay? This is not only going to be about assessment. This is also going to be about continuous improvement. The reason why we do a TQA assessment is to improve our organizations. It's not only to do a TQA assessment or get an award or something. So, part of the deliverable for Thursday afternoon is, in fact, on Thursday afternoon, this is what we will be doing. I will ask you to identify, using a certain systematic process that we will go through, your top 5 priorities for improvement in your organization based on your assessment of the first 4 categories of the TQA. Then, you will then prepare an action plan for each one of those top 5 improvement priorities. And action plans will not end in the shelves, because the next time that I'll be here, which is about 6 months from now, okay, you will report on your action plans. So this is something that's the first activity that we will do. You will report on your action plans, the progress of your action plans, so you better have something to report at that time. And then we will complete the evaluation of categories 5, 6, and 7 at that time. Okay? So that's going to be our plan. Welcome. Good morning. So our table for the University of the Thai Chamber of Commerce is now complete. Okay. Again, we're still doing an overview of the workshop, okay, of the course. So our workshop will have 3 days. This day, the first day, or right now, we're doing this overview of the course. And then I think our MC mentioned earlier today what's going to be the program today, so I'm not going to repeat, okay? But we will have about an hour of lectures about the concept of performance excellence in the morning. And then we will go straight to our first workshop, application of core values. I will give you some guidance on the organizational profile. I read all of your organizational profiles. Okay, so I skimmed through them and actually found some commonalities in terms of problems that you face. Okay? There are certain terms that actually have arisen to some confusion, or I think there are certain terms in the organizational profile that need to be explained further. Terms like strategic challenge, strategic advantage, core competence, okay, those things. So I will go through those terms, okay, and show by way of an example how those are developed. And then we'll do a second workshop, and the second workshop will be, again, going to your organizational profile. Now that you have, now that there's a better understanding of those terms, what I want you to do now in the second workshop is to revise that organizational profile, given the new information that you have. And then we'll have a brief mini lecture. By mini lecture, I mean about 30 minutes. Brief mini lecture on Category 1, leadership, and specifically what I'd like to cover in that mini lecture is the meaning of the word leadership system. Because whenever you read about Category 1, all talks about leadership system, leadership system. So what does a leadership system mean, and what's an example of a leadership system? And then given what you now know about leadership system, then you go back to your own organization, will conduct a workshop 3. And the workshop 3 will then apply the criteria for leadership to your own organization. We will always end the day with reflection. We reflect on what the lessons that we learned that day, what are the things that you will do differently as a result of the lessons that you learned, and what are the things that you think you should keep on doing as a result of the lessons that you learned for the day. Tomorrow, we will do the same pattern, okay? A brief mini lecture on a criteria category, followed by a workshop applying the concepts of that category. So tomorrow, the categories that we will deal with are strategic planning, category 2, customer focus, category 3, and then measurement, analysis, and knowledge management, category 4. We will end the day again with reflection. Okay? So find out what are the lessons that we learned, what are the things that we should continue doing in the process of doing our self-assessments, and what are the new things that we should start doing. Finally, day 3, we will go to a 7th workshop called the synthesis into cross-cutting key themes. Like, after you have done your analysis of your organization's responses to categories 1 through 4, as well as the extent to which the core values performance excellence are reflected in your organizations, then we'll take a look at what are some of the major conclusions about performance excellence in your organization. Okay. How mature is it? Are you in the beginning stages? Are you rather mature? So we will go through a systematic process for determining that. Then I'll take a look at the issue, we'll go to the issue of prioritizing opportunities for improvement. In TQA, we do not talk about weaknesses. They are all areas for improvement, or opportunities for improvement, okay? So it's not a euphemism. They're all opportunities for improvement. Each one of us has an opportunity for improvement, okay? So, one of my opportunities for improvement is I have thinning hair. So I used to have a lot more hair 10 years ago. And so some opportunities for improvement, we cannot do anything about it. But at least here, when we prioritize opportunities for improvement, we're saying that some of these OFIs, opportunities for improvement, we can do something about them. Okay, so you prioritize those and you identify the top 5 priority opportunities for improvement in your own organization. And then we'll go to our last workshop for this course, at least for these 3 days, and that is to develop an action plan for your improvement priorities. Again, we'll end the day with reflection on the workshops, on the topics that we covered today. And finally, I left about 1 hour at least of parking lot Q&A. So any questions that you are not able to ask during the first two days, or any questions that you are afraid to ask, okay, write it on a piece of paper, okay, and give it to me, and I'll do my best to respond to those on day 3. So, at the end of day 3, you should leave with all of your questions answered, okay? That if you leave on day 3 and you have this feeling that, oh, I wish I asked that question, okay, then this course did not work. So we had a problem. So when you leave on day 3, all questions that you have that would be on your mind, my wish is that you would have asked them either in writing or verbally, but you have the opportunity to ask them, and I would have the opportunity to respond to those. And if we run out of time, okay, then I will, and if you give me those questions in advance, I will create an email with my answers to those questions and send it to all HEC so that it could be circulated to all of you. Okay? And then we close. All right. Questions about the program before I go further with the next topic. By the way, I don't normally just stay in one place. I usually go around, but at this time of the day, it's actually nighttime, my time. so I still have jet lag. So about in the morning is when I usually would sit down here, and then later in the afternoon I'll be moving around. So I hope you don't mind. Okay. All right. Questions about the program? Yes.
How about the category 5 and 6?
Category 5 and 6, we will not have the time to do 5 and 6 in the next 3 days, so that will be the subject of the next course. The next course we'll do 5, 6, and 7. But before we do 7, you need to gather data, right? But that's why we need to do 4 in this workshop, so that will prepare you to do 7. Any other questions? All right, are we ready to go? Okay. Okay, the criteria. Think of the criteria as the components of what we call an integrated management system. Okay? An integrated management system is a system that integrates all of the systems and processes of the organization into one complete framework. Okay? And the TQA criteria is an example of one such integrated management system in place. Okay? Of course, there are many processes, systems that are part of that. And if you go outside of the TQA field, okay, how many of you have ISO 9000 certification as a university? Okay. Or how many of you have heard of ISO 9000? Okay, so you've heard. Okay. That is an example of one such system that would be part of this integrated management system. So the integrated management system is an umbrella of management systems. Okay? Now, the criteria for performance excellence reflect leading-edge, validated management practices essential to achieving optimum performance in that integrated management system. Okay. What do we mean by leading edge? Well, leading edge is... What's your concept of leading edge? Of a leading edge practice? You know, like to volunteer? No, don't worry, I'm not giving you a grade, okay? So just say what you think is leading edge, so just to make sure that we're thinking along the same lines. When someone tells you, oh, what you're doing is a leading edge practice, so what does that mean? Up to date. Okay, up to date. Okay, what else? Number one. Okay, leading. Number one, so it's advanced, up to date. It could also mean innovative, right? Something new. Okay. So, validated is the other key word. Okay. Validated means that these practices have been validated through research. Okay, so these are not just fads that showed up. Okay? Because you know the management literature is so full of fads right now. Okay, and fads by definition are things that are popular right now, and then 1-2 years from now you won't hear them again. Okay, okay. So, validated means that these practices are leading edge, but at the same time, someone has done research on them, okay, empirical research on them, to validate whether they are going to last. These are things that are true leading edge practices, okay, and that they have worked. And that someone else is the National Institute for Standards and Technology, NIST, in the U.S. Department of Commerce. The NIST is the one that develops and updates the Baldrige Award criteria. And the TQA, along with many other national quality award frameworks, is based on the Baldrige Award criteria. Okay? So that's an important consideration. So you might ask, well, there's a new thing now, social media, for instance. Social media has been around for quite a while. E-commerce has been around for quite a while. Is that in the criteria? Of course, about 10 years ago, when e-commerce already was in existence, okay, it was not yet in the criteria. Okay, but electronic commerce, electronic business suddenly went into the Baldrige criteria because it was proven to be something that would last long. It had been validated by practice. And so with social media, the use of Facebook, Twitter, okay, for organization communication. When did Facebook appear? When did MySpace appear? About 5 years ago when it became popular. But it entered into the Baldrige criteria in 2011. So it takes a while for certain innovations to actually become part of the Baldrige criteria because of that validation process. Okay? So, how do we build this integrated management system? So let me show you the process in which these integrated management systems are built. Any organization, for it to continue, okay, for it to last, I'm talking about any organization, business, public sector organization, governments, for it to last, it must provide something of value to its customers, right? Okay, it must generate results. In the field of education, that result is in the form of what is the result of a higher education institute? What is it that we produce? We produce graduates. Okay, we graduate students with highly valued degrees, right? And we hope that these degrees will be highly valued, because if they're not highly valued, then no one will employ our graduates, right? So that is what we mean. So that's an example. So every organization, in order for it to survive, must produce results, must get results, and those results must be valued by its intended customers, users. Now, in order for any educational institution, for a college or a university, to generate results that will be valued by the customer of the college or the university. And who are these customers of a college, of a university? Students, stakeholders, which would include the employers of the students. If you are an undergraduate college and your students, when they graduate, they will now go to medical school, or they will now go to law school or graduate school. Those other schools, those what we call receiving schools, okay, are part of our customers, right? So they are part of what we call our stakeholders. So when we talk about customers in education, we're talking about students and stakeholders. Okay? Students in this case, we know who the students are. They're the ones who undergo the learning process in your universities. The stakeholders, examples of stakeholders would be employers, okay? The receiving schools, like the graduate schools, the law schools, the medical schools that will receive our bachelor's graduates. Those are part of our stakeholders. Okay? The public, especially if we are a public institution, okay? We're supported by taxpayers, so the taxpayers are part of that stakeholder group that we need to satisfy. So in order for us, for any university, to generate results that will be valued by students and stakeholders, then you need to know who those students and stakeholders are. And not only that, you need to know what the requirements are. Okay? Because you can produce something that is not going to be valued by employers, for instance. So you think it's valued, but at the end of the day, it is what your customer says is valued that really determines the thing. Imagine yourself walking into a restaurant. Okay? Want to eat, but you just ate Japanese food earlier. When was that? Sunday. The chef might say, "Oh, I have the best sushi." Okay? The chef might say that, but who determines whether the sushi is good? It's the customer, the one who eats it. Okay? The chef might say, "Well, I caught the fish myself, so I know it's fresh." Okay? But, you know, whether it's fresh or not, it's your determination to make as the customer. And so that is where we go. The saying goes, the customer is the ultimate arbiter, the ultimate judge of quality of the product or the service. Okay? It is the marketplace, it is the employers who is the ultimate judge of whether we produce good graduates or not, how they perform, okay, in the workplace. Okay? So in order for those results to be produced, valued results, then we need to know what are the requirements of our customers, of our students and stakeholders, and therefore we can meet or delight them. Okay? Delighting means we exceed the requirements. Okay? We exceed the requirements of our customers. Meeting means we just met the requirements of our customers. It is in delighting customers that we generate what we call repeat business. When we delight when we have a group of delighted students who graduate from us, they're the ones who would refer our university to their relatives and friends. Okay? So, in order for us to meet and delight the requirements of our students and stakeholders, we need to have motivated faculty and staff. Not only motivated, but also productive faculty and staff. So motivated and engaged faculty and staff. Okay? So engagement means that our faculty and staff view themselves not merely as employees or paid employees of the university, but they view themselves as important partners in the delivery of high-quality education, okay? And high-quality education to students, high-quality graduates that eventually would make their way to the workforce. So, from results to students and stakeholders, and the importance of having an engaged faculty and staff in order for us to meet and delight, okay, our students and stakeholders. Now, let me offer quite a simple product line, okay? Something that we have experienced at one point in time in our lives, and that is the coffee shop. Okay? You go to a coffee shop, okay? The coffee shop gave you, let's say Starbucks, okay? You ordered hot coffee, but you got coffee that's not really hot. Okay? So, will you be delighted? No. Was your requirement met? No. Okay? So, if the staff of that coffee shop, if the server is at least an engaged person, okay, what will that server do? Change. Okay? Give you another cup of coffee. Maybe brew a fresh cup of coffee for you. Okay? Now, probably not a very efficient way of doing it, but at least that server met your requirements. And that server, because that server probably saw you making another cup of coffee, probably even delighted. Okay? And it's the delighted customer who brings in other customers. Okay?
Okay. Now, the problem is, if you keep on brewing a new cup of coffee every time there's a problem with it, then what would happen? Can you sustain that? Is that a sustainable? State of affairs? Can you sustain that? Why not? Your costs will go up. Your costs will go up. Okay. Now, when your costs go up, so who pays the extra costs eventually? The customer, right? You'll have to pass it on to the customer. So now the customer in the long run will have to pay a higher price for coffee because of your sloppy performance. Okay, because of the sloppiness with which the coffee was made, because of the defects, okay, because of the rework that will have to be paid for, and you pass on the cost to the customer. So then, well, you got a satisfied customer. You get a delighted, but over time the delight will disappear because now the price of coffee has been going up. Okay? I am subsidizing, if I'm the customer, I will say, I am subsidizing the sloppy performance of the coffee shop. Okay? Now, let's add another variable. So let's say the smarter coffee shop owner will then discover that customers like their coffee to be hot, and even came up with a definition of hot. It's between 76 and 82 degrees Celsius. Okay? And that one measure temperature. The customer also, the coffee shop also, said that customers also want coffee to be not too acidic. Okay? Otherwise, they'll have a bad stomach. So he said, not too bitter, not too acidic. So pH of at least 7.4. Okay. So yeah, now you got the second measurement. Okay, what else? And we don't want that coffee to be too strong. Okay. So how would you measure it? So come up with a process measure for that. So you ask customers, probably have taste tests. Okay. You have these 3 customers: strong coffee, mild coffee, and so the test of strong coffee would be not too strong, 75 grams of super fine grind, okay, per liter of filtered water. So those are the measurements that we have. So you got a measurement of temperature, you got a measurement of acidity, you got a measure of what? The last one is the strength of the coffee, okay? So now, that coffee shop will then monitor, okay, the coffee itself. Oh, by the way, one more thing. It should be fresh. Okay? You may have those 3, but the coffee is a day old, okay? And you know when the coffee is old, right? So, the definition of fresh would be, it was brewed no more than 5 minutes ago. Okay? So now you got these 4 measures. These are what we call in-process measures. Okay? So when you read the criteria, you say in-process measures. And the importance of in-process measures is that you don't wait for the disaster to happen. Okay? The disaster being the dissatisfied customer. But you know that as long as your coffee is within these limits, the limits of those 4 in-process measures that you have, you will continue to have a satisfied customer. And as a result, you're not going to have rework. And because you don't have rework, you can still keep the price that you charge the customer, okay? And you keep on delighting the customer, okay? As a result. Okay? That is what we call that is the importance of having work processes in place. And having in-process measures imply that in addition to engage faculty staff, you also have work processes in place that enable you to predict the outcome, of your product. Now, let's go to an educational institution. What are some of these in-process measures that we have in place. If the outcome is a graduate that will be highly valued in the marketplace, that will be highly valued in the workplace, okay? And we will know that only 4 years from now. So what are some of these in-process measures that we use in the university so that we will not have to wait 4 years from now? Oh, in medical schools, you've got a lot of these in-process measures. So what are some of these in-process measures that you have so that you will not have to wait 4 years from now for a patient to be operated on the wrong leg, okay? A defective product, defective position. So what are some of these in-process measures that we have? Let's have some examples. Yeah, so you need to know, you test the sufficient knowledge, right? So maybe you have a requirement that, I'm just guessing, maybe you have a requirement that you need to have a grade point average of no less than, what, a 2, okay, at the end of each semester. Okay, so that's an example of an in-process measure. And the assumption there is that if they pass through those things, okay, if they all have at least a 2, okay, by the time that they finish medical school, and they will pass the medical board exam, the certification exams, and they will do well. Okay, so that's the assumption that we're making. Are you comfortable with that assumption? Yes.
Hello, I'm from Hanyang University. At our university, we have one system. It's called SOS, or Student One-Stop Service. The students come to this counter, and then they can do everything: register, payment, and when they finish the process, they the staff will ask them to evaluate immediately after they receive the service, if they are satisfied with the quickness of the process or not. Is this in-process measures?
It's an example. You can look at it as an in-process measure if, let's say, one of the measures that you track is at the end of their studies, you have a summative student satisfaction survey of the graduating student. So you don't wait for that satisfaction survey at the end of their studies, but you have that. That's an example of an in-process measure. But if, let's say, the outcome that you're looking at is a physician, an MD who just, a physician who just graduated from your faculty, for instance, okay, and who becomes successful, okay, in the workplace. Then examples of in-process measures would be their academic performance at the end of each semester, at the end of each quarter or term. Okay. What else? Another in-process measure that you might have would be the number of hours of clinical practicum that they actually undergo. Okay. Another in-process measure might be their grades in particular courses. Okay. In particular courses, I'm not looking at all the courses that they have, in particular courses. These are examples of things that you measure beforehand. Okay? Things that you measure beforehand before disaster happens. Okay? Another term for that in the field of economics, you call them leading indicators. Okay? These are your leading indicators of a good performance, as opposed to lagging indicators. Lagging indicators, the disaster already happened. Okay? The dissatisfaction already happened. Okay? And so leading indicators, lagging indicators, leading indicators are actually more important for our purposes than lagging indicators. Okay. in order for all of these to work, going back to the coffee shop, temperature, acidity, strength of the coffee, and freshness. Well, the coffee shop needs to have an information system, right, to track those measures.